welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be on right now. It's been a couple of weeks of excitement, getting prepared, and I've done a lot of things in my life, but this has got to be close to the top.
Thank you, Reader's Magnet, and thank you, John, for putting this forth and taking the chance on us authors in presenting this out to the world.
I've enjoyed this immensely, Joanne.
Ellie, so have I. Thank you for who you are, and thank you, Reader's Magnet. You all are beautiful, and you've worked so very hard, and we are blessed.
We are.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process, because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers. We thank Reader's Magnet and everybody that's involved. I love Reader's Magnet. They say, we share your stories with the world.
Well, hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful day as I am. First of all, I want to thank each of you for taking the time to visit with me to learn about my new book, American Insanity. I also want to thank Dennis at Reader's Magnet and Reader's Magnet for all the help and support they have provided me in promoting my book. So let me begin by telling you a little bit about my book. And for your information, I'll be giving information about my background in tomorrow's session. Today, I want to focus on the book. And once I tell you a little bit about the book, if I have time, I'll read some excerpts from my book to give you a flavor of what you can expect from my book. So, why the title American Insanity? I chose the title American Insanity because I felt that it best describes what I write about in my book, namely, all of the insanity occurring within our federal government with the current generation of young adults and within our society in general. I wanted a title that represented the insanity of our unconstitutional and bloated federal bureaucracy, and a title that describes for the potential reader all the insane, corrupt, unconstitutional atrocities the government is committing against those it was created to serve. Subjects which I cover in American Insanity. I wrote American Insanity to help shed some light on the level of corruption that exists within our federal government and the extent to which our federal government is abusing its powers, and the extent to which our federal government is infringing upon our constitutional rights. Information mostly unknown to the general public because our mainstream news media has become so politicized that they no longer report any news that doesn't fit the ideology they support, or if they do report that news, they report it in a slanted manner to support their ideology. And so they no longer can be trusted to be a watchdog over our government by staying neutral in their reporting, which, by the way, is why freedom of the press was added to the Constitution. So I wanted to bring to the attention of our citizens that information of government corruption. The medias are failing to report or reporting inaccurately. Having been a part of the Washington bureaucracy, or the swamp if you prefer, for 11 years, I am very familiar on how that swamp works. So it is that swamp and the corruption within that swamp that I address at length in my book. Most importantly, I speak about how and why it is the swamp, not Congress, which really governs the United States. And yes, Jennifer, I agree with you 100%. So I begin my book by asking questions that all of us are having about what is happening to our country and to our freedoms, then go on to address those questions. I'll be reading a few of those questions after I finish telling you a little bit about my book. So please stick around for that. Before I get to the chapters in which I discuss those questions, all of the corrupt issues I address in the book are broken down by departments, agencies, and individuals within our federal government. And thank you for the brilliant diagnosed comment, Elizabeth. I appreciate it. I do include a chapter in which I give a brief history of the creation of our Constitution, including the Constitution and the fixed amendments in their entirety. Why? Because I know that the vast majority of American citizens have never read our Constitution. Therefore, they don't even realize what God-given constitutional rights they have, which the government is attempting to take away from them. Pauline, a prescription? Yes, we need to come up with a prescription. And I have a prescription for it, and it's the last two chapters of my book. And it talks about the only way we can save our constitutional republic. But I'll get to that at that point. And Betty, yes, we have become a uniparty, unfortunately and sadly. And you almost can't distinguish between the two anymore. The vast majority of the book is really about the corruption and ineptness of those we have elected and those who are unelected servants of the people. I talk about how and why we have lost the respect of foreign nations and lost our rightful place on the world stage. Then I also include chapters in which I address the level of denigration our Constitution has suffered because of Supreme Court rulings and the outright ignoring of our Constitution by our corrupt government. I continue with chapters in which I lay out how the federal government has been steadily overreaching its constitutional authority, how and why power-hungry Washington politicians and elitists are transforming our states from sovereign entities into being nothing more than submissive subjects to the federal government. These are all things I learned very well during my 11 years working in DC with Congress and the White House staff. I include chapters which lay out the impact that our failed public school system is having on the future of our children and the future of our constitutional republic. Julia, I know everybody talks about unity, but I can't say that no one wants to work on it. I work with 3 different organizations that are working very hard at trying to bring that unity back and bring our constitutional republic back to what it was before the early 60s. So I addressed the lies our government is feeding us about our southern border security and the real impact this is having on communities across the country. I explained how insane our national debt has become, how we got to this point, and what this all means to the average American household. In other chapters, I lay out the extent to which our government is willing to go in order to silence and disarm American citizens with opposing viewpoints and why they're doing so. I also include chapters that address how and why our 2-party political system is failing, which answers the previous questions that one of my viewers had about us not having separate parties anymore. I address America's insane shift from capitalism towards socialism, the attempts being made by the Washington elitists to push America towards a globalist nation, and what all of this means for our individual constitutional rights and our constitutional republic. I go on to discuss the extent to which our federal government has been weaponized against its own citizens and how the government is failing to conduct their actions and decisions within the confines of the Constitution. I continue with chapters in which I attempt to provide a feel for why American voters have become so apathetic towards our government and why so many members of Congress so easily fall into the grips of corruption. In short, what I'm attempting to do is wake up the harsh reality that is today's America to my readers. And as I stated before, the last 2 chapters are dedicated to addressing the only real solutions available to us in order to save our constitutional republic. For example, within those 2 chapters, I discuss solutions such as the convening of a convention of states under Article 5 of the Constitution, which I believe that 90% plus of American citizens don't even realize or know what Article 5 is about, and the power and the authority that Article 5 gives to us, the people, over our federal government. I discuss election integrity at length, what different organizations are out there, how and what they're doing to try to assure election integrity. And this is one of the organizations that I'm working with, and also the convening of a convention of states. The organization is Convention of States Action Movement, and I also work with them. And I talk about a lot more in terms of what's wrong with our government, what corruption is going on, and what we can do about it. So you may wonder, with all of that information, how long it took me to write this book. Well, having firsthand knowledge of my subject, after having been in Washington, D.C., and being a part of that swamp for 11 years, it only took me about 9 months of research and writing to complete the book. I did incorporate many of my op-ed articles to various news outlets, which I had written over the past 3 years, which also helped me move forward much quicker. In fact, it was writing the op-ed articles over the past many years that finally inspired me to write this book. And just to let everybody know, I'm currently working on my next book, which will be titled Government Gone Rogue, in which I'll be addressing how and why our government has ceased to be a shield to protect its citizen and has become a weapon against its own citizens. Done so in order to subdue us into subjects of our government. I'm in the early stages of writing that book, but hope to have it ready to be published within the next 7 or 8 months. Let me just say, and I think most of you will agree, that there's a lot to learn about the extent of corruption within our federal government. You could write encyclopedias covering all the corruption that has been occurring, I think, and I believe, since the very early 60s during the Vietnam War. And I believe that if you read my book, you'll finish reading the book with a clearer understanding of just how deep that corruption really goes, and why and how each and every one of us must become involved in holding our government officials accountable if we are to save our constitutional republic. So I hope each of you will seriously consider buying a copy of American Insanity to learn the real extent to which our government and the news media are failing our republic, and just how much people really don't realize what is going on within our federal government. Timothy, you couldn't be more right. The weaponizing of the states has been going on for some time. And the way the federal government is doing that is by bribing the states. And I say bribing because that's exactly what they are doing when they offer all these funding for special programs and initiative to the states, which they and then in turn require the states to accept their leadership, their dictating of how their state will be run, which is not what the Constitution says. The states are sovereign, and the states, and people don't realize this because of so many years of federal government domination, but the states are sovereign, and the states, according to the Constitution, powers exceed the powers of the federal government. And finally, having answered that question, finally, I want to ask everyone to please visit my website at americaninsanity.org. That's Americaninsanity, one word, .org, for the links to purchasing my book. Or if you prefer to go straight to the links, those links are American Insanity by LeRoy Cossette at Book Baby Bookshop. For Barnes & Noble, go to barnesandnoble.com, and in the search box, enter American Insanity by LeRoy Cossette. And for Amazon purchases, go to amazon.com, and again, in the search box, enter American Insanity by LeRoy Cossette. With that, are there any other questions? If they're not, I'm going to read a little bit out of one of my out of my first chapter, which kind of sets the stage for the whole book. I'm going to start with a few snippets from chapter 1, because as I said, it lays out all the questions I address throughout the book. Chapter 1 of my book is titled, America, Where Am I? Questions I have no doubt each of you must be asking yourselves every day, given the insanity going on all around us every day. So here are a few paragraphs from chapter 1. Have I just awoken to find myself in a twilight zone, a dysfunctional junction in time and space, a place where absurdity is overwhelming common sense, where individuals have become nothing more than hateful and intolerable human beings, incapable of interacting with one another or discussing each other's beliefs and values without disdain towards those with different points of views or opinions? Where am I that the land of the brave can no longer find the courage and strength to stand against radical woke malcontents determined to bring chaos and uncertainty to our lives, where no matter which way we turn, we find political clowns to one side and woke jokers to the other side. And here we are standing in between them with fear for the future of our children and our nation. Where am I that so much apathy exists among people living in a country which provides so much freedom and opportunities to each one of us, where so many have become so determined to bring down the shining star of the world? Where am I that so many have lost their faith in God and their faith in a nation founded upon Judeo-Christian values? Are there really that many willing to worship at the altar of government, believing that their salvation rests in the hands of a godless and evil government, willing to make slaves of them? I am mentally unable to grasp the reality of this place, because this is not the United States of America of my youth. Rather, this is a place being consumed by evil. I am dumbfounded that there are so many American citizens who truly believe that a life under a one-party rule will provide for a more free and prosperous life than would a constitutional republic form of government, subject to the will of we the people, and does not treat its citizens as subjects, but rather places the rights of its citizens above the rights of the government. Are there really so many so ready to give up their God-given rights under a constitution which guarantees each of its citizens freedoms found nowhere else in the world? Can this still be the United States of America, whose past generations were capable of setting aside their differences to find the strength, courage, and determination to confront and defeat the evils of Nazism, fascism, and communism? Is it possible that we have lived in a land of freedom for so long that our citizens now assume that they are entitled to these freedoms and privileges with no obligations to protect and fight to retain those freedoms? What happened to the greatest and strongest God-fearing nation on earth? This is not the America I grew up in. So what happened to the land of the brave and the home of the free? What happened to the land of diversity in which every citizen had God-given rights, talents, and skills which contributed to the achievement of their dreams, and by extension, the prosperity of our great nation if they are willing to make the necessary sacrifices to achieve those dreams. This is not still the United States of America, in which each one of us was so privileged to be born. Have any one of us ever wished to live anywhere else, including the anti-American malcontents? Where am I that so many citizens have come to care so little about what is occurring within their government and seem to not care about the real possibility that their children and grandchildren will never know the America of their grandparents and great-grandparents? How is it that so much has changed so rapidly? Or is it more conceivable that these changes have been slowly occurring over time, but we have all been so preoccupied with worldly achievements that we have failed to recognize what has been occurring all about us? I struggle to believe that I am still in the country which was founded and fought for by a ragtag army of brave men and women to gain their freedom from tyranny and oppression. Men and women with the courage and conviction to fight against England, the most powerful military force in the world at their time. I am no longer in the country which those brave individuals fought for and formulated a governing constitution which grants every citizen their God-given right to the blessings of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and to pursue the dreams of freedom from tyranny and oppression? Has America reached that point in its history, which Benjamin Franklin warned us about in his statement? I quote, "We have a republic if we can keep it," unquote. That a constitution written to withstand the passage of time has failed to do so. Have so many citizens of the United States become so addicted to free benefits and entitlements that they are allowing the entire nation to be sucked into an abyss of slavery to the government? Where am I that the leadership of some of the world's largest and most successful corporations have been so easily driven to fear by intellectually irrational woke fools? It is inconceivable that individuals and companies with the ability to become so successful in an extremely competitive world could so easily be brought to their knees by such a small number of woke agitators, causing them to capitulate to their woke nonsense. Are they not among the brave of the United States? And if so, where are they? And why do they not have the courage to stand up against these despots and just say, no, this is not acceptable? Has bravery and courage been lost among the leadership of these giant corporations, among those we have elected to represent us? Why would those who have the intellectual ability and courage to take the risks necessary to become so successful not realize that becoming involved with purely political agendas will only result in their demise? Their place is to ensure that their products meet the expectations of their customers and a profit margin acceptable to their shareholders, and not to become involved in the latest political correct trend. Have we all become so morally weak in mind and spirit that God has given up on our once truly Judeo-Christian nation? Or is God merely testing our faith in Him and our constitutional republic? Will the faithful find the strength to endure and banish this evil? Or will we suffer the same demise of so many other promising nations throughout history, and fall into the clutches of that evil? Have we become so addicted to self-satisfaction and self-gratification that America has turned into a second Sodom and Gomorrah, slowly being destroyed by the wickedness within our government? Where am I that has allowed the devil's technicals to enwrap so many of our country's political leaders, causing them to embrace this evil and corruption? Americans are confused and disorientated as a result of all the caustic political rhetoric being thrown at them, causing great concern in our country's ability to find a path out of this hollow hell and return back to being the home of the free, the home of freedom, liberty, and security. Where am I that corrupt sociopath minions from hell are elected to government positions only to turn around and use those positions to destroy our constitutional republic and we, the people, without shame or remorse? I wonder where I am, that no matter how I vote, how I participate, what I say, or how much I pray, Satan's grip on our nation's elected officials seems beyond salvation. Where elected officials who once were believed to be trustworthy and honorable, and as such, in whom we entrusted our faith to protect our Constitution, and we, the people, have abandoned us. Trust obviously misplaced. We find ourselves in a strange dimension of the universe wherein the America we so loved and so many have fought for and died has been consumed by wickedness. So that's a snippet of chapter 1. And again, like I said, it just kind of lays out all those questions which I address within the book. And you're right, Kathy. The government that is supposed to be representing us is constantly and consistently pushing us away from Lincoln's formulation of we of the people, for the people, by the people. I hope that my efforts, Pauline, will have some small impact. And as I said many times before, I will never give up on this country, this nation. I fought for this country. I lost good friends in combat who truly believed in this country. And I'm sure that they stand by my side every day and inspire me to keep on working to help correct our problems and our wayward path that our nation has chosen to take, or not our nation, but the political elitists in Washington, D.C., who are choosing to abandon our constitutional republic for globalism and Marxism. And Miss Lopez, Cholo, I think it's pronounced, the pressing problems about the people that don't know how the government works is exactly what I discuss in my book, how it works as I found it when I spent my 11 years working in the swamp, and how it's supposed to work according to our Constitution. And I agree with you, Timothy. Amen. I don't know how much time I have left, but in case I get cut off here, I want to invite you to please join me tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, when I'll be talking about my background and what experiences I experienced, which gave me the information and ideas that prompted me or propelled me to write this book. So tomorrow at 4 p.m., I'll be talking about my background. And like today, I'll be presenting more excerpts from my book so that everybody can have a good feel and flavor for what this book is all about, and hopefully encourage you to buy American Insanity, because I certainly would appreciate it. And I think you'll appreciate what I have written and what you'll learn. So are there any questions that I can answer about the book? No questions? You make it too easy. I'm past my half hour, so I believe I'll be closing it at this point. And I hope to see you, or some of you at least, tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and give you an opportunity to find out what I'm all about and what experience I believe I have to have written this book. Again, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day, and enjoy your visits to the festival. And I hope you find a lot of interesting books out there. I'm sure there are plenty. All right. With that, I'll say goodbye, and hopefully we'll see or talk to you at least tomorrow or in the next 2 weeks. I have sessions every day except for Saturday and Sunday, and I'll be talking more and more about the book and excerpts out of that book. All right. Thank you and goodbye.